You are a tiny little human born in a refugee camp in the Middle East. You don't know what a country is or what human rights and refugee mean, and you don't care. You feel free, roam the streets, and just play all day. You were born here and will probably die here too. But you don't know that. You're just a kid. As you grow older, you start observing more. Life kinda sucks here. There are rules and restrictions. With whatever you want to do or have, you're very limited. You're not in a normal place living a normal life. But you could be. You start hearing the older people mentioning a mystical land that belongs to you. A land that lies beyond the camp, in the south. A land where everyone can live happily and freely. But for now, you're stuck here. And there are bad guys there. It's impossible to get back what is claimed to be yours. But there might be a way.
Today we are in Shatila, one of the biggest Palestinian refugee camps in the whole country. This is crazy!
Out of all the countries in the world, Lebanon holds the most refugees per capita. With most of them being Syrian and Palestinian, about a quarter of the country's inhabitants are refugees. This is a crazy number. And like any refugee in the world, they're segregated and live in specific zones. But there's a notorious area that really stands out in Beirut, the capital city. The neighborhood of Sabra and Shatila. Sabra and Shatila is a combination of two Palestinian refugee camps, making it the biggest in the region and one of the most densely populated refugee camps in the world. It is often referred to as a city within a city. If you tell almost any Lebanese person, I'm going to Sabra and Shatila, this is the typical reaction you would get.
We're going to Sabra and Shatila today. You want to come?
Isn't it like super dangerous?
It is considered to be one of the most dangerous neighborhoods, where Lebanese authorities can't intervene and where shootings sometimes occur in the streets and innocent people end up killed. The place hides a dark history, and the topic of Palestinians in Lebanon is a pretty sensitive and controversial one, due to the role they played, amongst others, in triggering the Lebanese civil war. Even while growing up here, I constantly heard about this war that created so many traumas and even caused my own parents and so many others to flee the country for decades. So why go there? Well, if there's one thing I've learned from exploring and traveling, is that places like this are usually very misunderstood. Public opinion is often different from reality, since it's almost always shaped by select incidents and incomplete information. I mean, to my knowledge, Palestinians are some of the most hospitable people I've ever met. So, as someone who grew up only a few kilometers away from this place, but never dared to enter, I finally took the step to do so today with my foreign friends. And today is no random day. Yesterday, a ceasefire was announced between Israel and the Gaza Strip in Palestine. And that makes me even more eager to explore and try to understand the reality of the people here in these special circumstances.
Okay, welcome everybody! Wow, beautiful sneeze, beautiful sneeze. Welcome everybody to day 18 of the daily vlog. Today is a special day as usual because we're going to Shatila, a Palestinian refugee camp in Beirut. Honestly, we have not a lot of expectations and we are with a special guest today.
What's up, guys?
Let's get into it. We just arrived in Shatila right now and we're going to be trying to meet up with our fixer of the day. His name is Ahmad. Let's go.
Ahmad is a friend of a friend of a friend. We don't know Ahmad. And he doesn't know us either, or what we're here for. But he still agreed to help us. To find him, we were told that we need to go deep into the camps, next to a certain mosque. I know, it's kind of sketchy.
Shadi and I, we're the only ones that speak Arabic, so I think it's going to be very stressful today because we need to do a lot of talking and try to understand the stories of the people here and their reality.
دغري
Okay.
حتى شايل الفرد اللي بالواج
Okay.
رايح دغري.
We are in the very, very narrow streets of Shatila right now. It's crazy. Look at this. Electric cables everywhere. Okay, we arrived to the first stop of the day. It's the mosque, and we're meeting Ahmad Hassan right here.
So we walk into the building of the mosque with no expectations, and this is Ahmad, I guess, with a room full of old ladies.
We just arrived with Ahmad Hassan.
And Ahmad, like most people in the camp, is Palestinian.
أهلا وسهلا فيكم مخيم شتيلة هو امتداد لفلسطين نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى إنه يوم من الأيام إنه يكون في نصر حقيقي هذا اليوم بننتظره وإن شاء الله ما يكون
2 seconds later.
This is crazy.
So that just happened. I guess the day starts with an epic party in a room full of old Palestinian ladies. But why is this happening? As I explained previously, the Israeli government and the Islamic Palestinian group Hamas agreed to a ceasefire yesterday after 11 days of relentless bombardment. Palestinians obviously have more casualties, so it was a win for them to have the fighting stop. And that is why the entire Palestinian community is so happy today. I mean, they're very happy because they probably have family members in Gaza that were being affected by all the bombardments from Israel. And now since the ceasefire yesterday, being mediated by Egypt, the tensions lowered so much more, and now everyone's happier. And after all that dancing, it's time for a good lunch. Right now we're eating farrouj with rice and garlic sauce, toum. We just finished this little celebration. This is the logo of the Association of Ahmed Hassan. He's actually doing a lot of humanitarian work in this Palestinian camp of Shatila.
لأن المجتمع الفلسطيني مجتمع مهمش داخل المخيمات. إلنا محطات كبيرة وعمل كبير داخل المخيمات الفلسطينية حتى نخفف قدر الإمكان من عبء الأزمة الاقتصادية وعبء اللجوء اللي فرضه المجتمع الدولي علينا.
Thank you. Yeah, let's continue with Abu Ali now to explore the camps, the rest of the camps.
The camp covers 1 square kilometer and thus has an exceptionally high population density. It really feels like walking in a labyrinth. It's so easy to get lost. I have no idea where we are, but thankfully Abu Ali seems to know exactly where to go.
So what their nonprofit did is they gave the buildings addresses. So you look here, you'll see this is G22 and it has 4 stories. So if someone is coming here as a guest, they'll say, where are you staying? You'll say, I'm staying in building G22 and whatever floor you're on. So it's an address.
And this helps to like localize the families in need and stuff, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Even with this simplified numbering system, it's inevitable to get lost in your head with constant information overload. There's just so many things happening at once. What to focus on? I tried to nutmeg a kid. I failed miserably.
Dude, this is a lot to process. There's a lot going on.
It's so much stimuli. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone's staring at us because it's like really obvious that we're foreigners.
There's so many colors, so many people, so many things happening. It's a bit overwhelming. This place has so much history and obviously a lot of trauma, so it's not an easy place to document.
So let me tell you more about the camp's history. It's pretty complex, but I'm gonna try to summarize it as best as I can. Throughout history, this piece of land right here was controlled by a lot of empires. It was a key crossroads for religion, culture, commerce, and politics. In modern times, the area was ruled by the Ottoman Empire and then the United Kingdom until 1948. That's when the Palestinian War erupts and the State of Israel is established, leading to the Nakba, an exodus where 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes and forced to immigrate. Many sought refuge in neighboring countries such as Lebanon, which led to the creation of the Shatila camp in 1949, one of many around the country. This large influx of refugees contributes to shifting the demographic balance in favor of the Sunni Muslim population of Lebanon, which back then was multi-sectarian. And with an imbalance of religions and ideologies comes chaos. Tension arises. Militias form on both sides. Fighting between Christian Maronites and Palestinian forces begin in 1975, impacting the beginning of the Lebanese Civil War. Alliances with other political and religious parties start forming and shift rapidly and unpredictably. The aftermath of the war and the horrible traumas it created still lives within and affects our daily life in Lebanon. The civil war resulted in an even more polarized society with complex politics and ideologies. Hence why hatred and discrimination still lives towards the Palestinians stuck in Lebanon and directly impacts their lives and well-being every single day. Right now, about 500,000 Palestinians living in Lebanon indefinitely have the status of stateless refugee, with no rights to a Lebanese citizenship. Lebanon hands out and renews hundreds of thousands of work permits every year to migrants from Africa, Asia, and other Arab countries, yet only a handful have ever been granted to Palestinians. This prevents them from accessing so many professions or basic needs like health and education. That's why 2/3 of them now live way below the poverty line.
الفلسطيني بلبنان ممنوع يشتغل ب 73 مهنة، منها الطبابة، الهندسة، التعليم العالي ممنوع يشتغل فيه الفلسطيني، يعني بيشتغل ليه؟ لأنه قرار من الدولة اللبنانية.
500,000 Palestinians living in Lebanon are in this situation right now.
Just looking around, you can't oversee the fact that the place is really struggling. There's a big human rights issue. A lot of the buildings are built roughly and are unsafe. Access to clean water is difficult, the wages are low, and yeah, the place is freaking filthy.
This is one of the nastiest places I've ever seen. It smells so bad.
This is what happens when you suppress one of the most basic human rights, freedom. the right to have an education, to work your way up to a decent life, to travel abroad, or even to contribute to society. It's like an open-air prison. But it doesn't only come from a place of discrimination. It is obvious that the Lebanese government fears that Palestinians gain power in the country. And being denied the Lebanese citizenship or acceptance into this country leads people like Abu Ali to have a stronger bond with their home country.
هلا بنفكروا انه خايفين نتوطن بلبنان او عنا اطماع بلبنان. بالعكس، يعني يمكن عندي أنا كفلسطيني حبة تراب من بلدي أفضل من بلدان العالم كلها. يمكن نحن ما خلقنا ببلدنا، بس بلدنا مزروع فينا. عندنا حب وطننا، حب أرضنا، مع أنه ما شفناها بس سمعناها من أجدادنا والآباء والأمهات. فعشان هيك حب فلسطين مزروع بعقلنا، بوجداننا، بقلبنا.
Abu Ali isn't the only one to think about Palestine in that way. In no other refugee camp I can think of do people display the flag of their country this much. And the more people we speak to, the more I notice a pattern. Despite everything they're undergoing, a lot of Palestinians are strangely really proud of their nation.
أنا اسمي إنعام حسين فلسطينية. أنا من الناصر من القدس. أنا خلقاني بلبنان وبتمنى تفتح طريق فلسطين لأروح أتعرف على أولاد عمتي، لأنه ماتت عمتي وما شفتها. هيدول من ريحة عمتي، أحب أشوفهم وأتعرف عليهم، ما بعرفهم إلا على التليفون.
From what we've seen, there's a deep-rooted ideology and really strong cultural values linked to Palestine, even in a refugee camp. It seems that being Palestinian goes beyond politics or nationality. It's more of an identity thing. And I believe that despite all the restrictions that come with being Palestinian in Lebanon and being stuck here indefinitely, their principles may be what have kept them on their feet. It's very easy to notice how hardworking people are in the camps, and that could explain why people have adapted so well and survived here.
People are living under the poverty line, the standard of living is very low, and they don't have rights, they can't get jobs in Lebanon. But on another hand, when you don't have so many options in life, your expectation of life is different, right?
As time passes, I realize that the camp is ethnically more complex than I first thought. Almost half the camp is made up of Syrian refugees that fled the Syrian civil war of 2011. There are also a lot of Kurds, Lebanese Shia Muslims, and other Asian and African migrant workers who sought refuge here. And with this fascinating mix of backgrounds, you often find individuals with pretty crazy backstories.
And are you Lebanese?
Now I am. I was stateless back then.
Where were you born then?
I was born here. I went to the States, Canada, back to the States, was deported to Lebanon. I was granted voluntary departure. I was a jeweler by trade. I was a sculptor as well. Now I raise dogs.
Right now we arrived in a street that's so much more crowded than the other streets we were in. Abu Ali told us to hold on to our stuff because they might be pickpockets and it's not a really safe area to walk in.
With the complex structure of the camp and its diversity, it's hard for international organizations to help effectively, especially with the ongoing crisis in Lebanon and the consequent lack of funds. They do provide help, but nowhere near what's actually needed. Yet there is one entity that does an impressive job, and it's a Palestinian one.
We just arrived to a really interesting location right now, Jifar al-Madani al-Falastini. I didn't even know that it existed, and they're all here, the whole team right here, and they're doing an amazing job because every day there's problems in the camp.
The Palestinian civil defense are impressive multitaskers. They fight every day for peace and the security of everyone living in the camp, no matter their ethnicity.
احنا 56 متطوع بين نساء ورجال. احنا بست مخيمات، كل يوم في حالات غيار، وعندنا حالات نقل، اسعافات اوليه يعني، واسعافات على المستشفى. انتوا عندنا هلا يمكن يصير حريق اطلع الشباب.
وبتصير كثير او لا؟
بتصير كل يوم.
This is the main operation desk of this specific department that's responsible mainly for Sabra and Shatila. Obviously, they work in a lot of other projects.
احنا مش بس بنشتغل بالمخيم، نحن بنشتغل على كل الاراضي اللبنانيه. نزلنا ساعدنا اخواننا اللبنانيه بانفجار البور اكثر من جمعتين. ما نعرف الليل من النهار يعني، واشتغلنا كمان 17 تشرين بالجبل فوق بحرايق لبنان.
Taking a group picture now with them, with all the legends right here.
As we left the civil defense, I met Muhammad, who took me up a series of the sketchiest rusty ladders I've ever climbed, promising me a spectacular view over the entire camp.
You have the whole Shatila camp right behind me. This is the top of one of the highest mosques. It's beautiful and very scary too. I mean, look. Look at this drop.
From this viewpoint, it's now easy to understand why they call Shatila the most dense and crowded refugee camp in the world.
So Abu Ali brought us to an old mosque, but now it became a morgue or a cemetery, I'm not sure. We're gonna go in and he's gonna show us around.
يعني هيدا خيي أنا اسمه إسماعيل استشهد هون أثناء حصار المخيمات على يد عصابات حركة أمل. طبعا بهذاك الوقت مش حاليا، كان عمره 17 سنة. كذا شخص توفى وفيش مجال تطلع تدفن برا، كان كل المخيم محاصر من 4 جهات.
What happened here might seem confusing. There's a few events I haven't mentioned yet and make Sabra and Shatila a really dark and sad place. The event where Abu Ali lost his young brother in 1985 is called the War of the Camps, that erupted between Amal, a Shia Muslim political party, and Palestinian militias over the control of the camps. But that's not what really made the place infamous. In 1982, a ruthless massacre took place here, where thousands of civilians, a majority Palestinian women and children, lost their lives to the hands of the Lebanese forces. Going into the details of why it happened and who was involved would take a lot of time. So I recommend doing some research if you're interested about the topic, and I highly recommend watching the Israeli movie Waltz with Bashir, which depicts how horrible the event was, even from an Israeli perspective.
So on this main street, that's where the Shatila massacre happened. And he told me that in 82, you would see dead bodies by thousands on the streets, right on this street where we are now. Now it became a souk and there's businesses everywhere. It's full of life.
Abu Ali wanted to bring us to one last place today, the cemetery where most people had to be buried in a rush.
شو هيدا المحل
هي
على
المقبرة هون مجزرة.
قد ايه في ناس ماتوا هون؟
شيء 3500 هيك بحدود.
3500. Okay. Abu Ali, he was 20 when this happened. Obviously some friends of his and family got killed, and he survived because he fled when it happened.
Abu Ali is one of tens of millions having gone through traumatic events and lost relatives and loved ones in the Middle East. I won't even try to pretend that I understand what the older generations have experienced here. Whether they're Palestinian, Syrian, Lebanese, Christian, Muslim, or from any other background, they've all seen things they shouldn't have. War, pain, torture, murder, rape. With the illusion of normality, we often tend to forget that so many people we walk past in the streets of Beirut were part of this bloody history, whether actively or passively. Our entire societies in this region of the world are based on trauma. It shaped the mentality and the behavior of a whole generation. Yes, it gets buried for decades, but then starts manifesting itself in all kinds of ways throughout the years.
Abu Ali, thank you so much for everything.
After thanking Abu Ali and the people who kindly showed us around today, I left the camp feeling bitter and disturbed. Something was missing. I wasn't able to make a synthesis from what I've seen. What is the ideology of the Palestinians stuck in Lebanon? With a troubled past and limited human rights, what is left for them? When it seems like there's no hope, what keeps them going?
So a few months later, I entered Shatila again, this time with my friends Shafi and Moody. Without knowing it, I had once again come at a very special time for the Palestinians. The commemoration of the launch of the party of Fatah, the largest faction of the PLO, which is the main confederated multi-party of Palestine. It was the perfect opportunity to talk to more people and try to understand more about their view of the future, especially the youth.
الحياة يعني حلوة هون بالمخيم بس هلا علي $، يعني أنت شايف الأحوال العالم كيف.
شو هدفك بالحياة؟ شو بدك تعمل بعدين؟
شو هدفي؟
ايه
ما هدفي شيء لأنه ما في هدف.
شو بدك تشتغل؟
ما في هدف هون.
ليش؟
ما في هدف.
Just like this guy, a lot of the youth have no life ambition because there's nothing for them here. No access to Lebanese citizenship, no rights, no future, no hope. Even if they're hardworking or smart, they remain very limited unless they find a way out and immigrate to countries in the West.
إذا فيك تسافر وين بتسافر؟
على ألمانيا. لاجئين نحن هون. هون ما في شغل، هونيك في شغل. هونيك تطلع مدير أعمال، هون تطلع تاجر مخدرات.
It's really heartbreaking to hear that these are their two main options. Wait in despair for an opportunity to leave, or try to improve their quality of life a bit by climbing the ladder of illegal trade. But there's a third scenario. Some get immersed in the militia mindset and join the political and executive side of the camp. And as I kept searching for answers, this soldier opened up to me.
نحن هدفنا الأول والأخير رجعتنا على الأرض المحتلة ونحرر أراضينا من أنجاس اليهود اللي هن إسرائيل، ولولا آخر عنصر من عنا آخر طفل سنحررها لفلسطين بإذن الله.
Ideologically, they're convinced about something that is going to create a lot of violence. Their only goal is to go back to Palestine and to create a state. For them, that's what they want. حاضرين تعملوا حرب يعني؟
احنا حاضرين وجاهزين. نحن لما بلشنا الحرب بلشنا بالحجر والسكين، فبنقدر انه نفوت سكين، حجرة، بارودة، وفرق.
هيدي شو؟
بكسر. هاي كلاشينكوف.
I'm for.
After asking them more questions, I was surprised by how deeply convinced these young guys seem about their ideology. They chose war and blood. It's really sad to witness because they're regular guys, nice, fun, and polite. They're about my age, some even younger. This guy, for example, he's 15, and he learned how to shoot an M4 when he was just 9 years old. Just put yourself in the shoes of a Palestinian growing up here. The adults give loud speeches, throw around weapons casually, and condition you little by little into an ideology of combat. They are so fully convinced based on the traumatic events they've lived that you too become persuaded. One day, you will destroy the enemy and reclaim the lands that belong to you and your people from which you were uprooted. You grew up and die with this mentality, and you pass it on to your kids. Nothing is more dangerous than the mindset of a community that has nothing to lose. Even worse, they have nothing to gain by staying here. That's why they fearlessly want to claim what they say is their land. I'm not trying to justify their behavior or ideology. I'm just trying to explain how a community ends up with 5-year-old kids carrying Kalashnikovs around. So what happens next? What should be done? Is war really a solution? Is there an alternative? What does the future look for all these kids? Finally coming to Shatila took me down a crazy rabbit hole. We learned about the camp's complex history, about the incredible diversity of beliefs, and about the reality of living in a refugee camp, whether it's through the eyes of old, hardworking civilians or young members of militias. Shatila not only reunites Palestinians, but also all the other suffering minorities of Beirut. Some are stuck here due to money struggles, others simply because of their background. It's a sad place, unable to progress due to its traumatic past and chaotic status quo. If you're born in the camp, you'll probably die in the camp. I doubt that there are any solid long-term plans to improve the quality of life of the Sabra and Shatila community and the millions of refugees living in other camps in Lebanon too. And it's even harder to develop anything now as Lebanon is struggling with an unprecedented economic crisis. But financial relief on its own won't lead to sustainable change. Apart from creating dependency, the refugee crisis is first and foremost a social issue. The Palestinians are just one example of all the ethnic or political groups in Lebanon whose traumas and ideologies shape their communities and agendas. Lebanon's crisis isn't only caused by an ineffective and corrupt government that divides to rule better. We tend to forget that almost a quarter of the population in the country are refugees, and that we're involved in an incredibly complex game of alliances, conflicting ideologies, and proxy wars. It's an endless vicious circle that affects the whole region. Whether we like it or not, Lebanon is directly concerned by the issue of refugees, and they are equally involved in Lebanon's problems. So, should we keep marginalizing and segregating? Should Lebanon give the Palestinians more rights? Should they be left alone? Should we interfere in some way?
I hope with this video it just, raises the question, like, what could be a solution in Lebanon for all those Palestinians living here? I'm not denying the fact that there's a lot of violent people, obviously, in those communities, but we can't judge them because they need education in order to avoid this type of violence and this type of living. I can see that there's so much potential and that there's so much workforce. There's young boys that have so much energy and they're putting this into weapons and violence while they could put it into human development and actually making the country sustainable.
Easy access to education is a fundamental right, and if implemented, it could take a couple of generations to witness a major societal change. But before that, governments and societies should start viewing refugees as human beings with potential instead of troubled, brainwashed individuals. This is valid for every marginalized community on the planet, but especially in the Middle East, where foreign powers all get involved to get a piece of the cake, spread chaos, then choose to label the people here as terrorists.
It's the average civilian that is taking the toll.
Yeah.
And it's just conflicting ideologies on the elite level, on the political level, on the government level, that creates this whole hatred type of situation in the Middle East, and it's really sad, I think.
But you put it so well. People always mistake the governments and like these extreme organizations with the people. When in reality, people from both sides are such amazing people. So many nice people I've met from both sides. And they get caught up, the innocent people, they get caught up in the mix of it.
At the end of the day, we're all human, and in the Middle East, there's a lot of different ideologies, yes, but at the same time, we all have the same human needs.
Regardless of where we come from or what we choose to believe in, we all want to live a decent life. We all need to eat, feel loved, included, and secure. And the Palestinians in Shatila showed us how it's done. The friends I came here with were Somali, Bangladeshi, Iranian, British, French, Indian, American, and American Jew. And we were all accepted here for who we were, not our background. We were met with uncomparable kindness and generosity, smiles, hospitality, festivities, and openness for dialogue. Governments want to divide us to rule us better, but deep down, I believe all we people want is to dance in harmony all together.